What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Bronx Pinstripe Show. Today we are previewing the Baltimore Orioles. I'm joined by Eric Arditti. I said that correctly, I believe. I meant to ask you beforehand, and I know I did this last year when you were on to preview the O's. What's up, Eric? How you doing?
Good. As we were just talking about off air, I got MLB Network on. The MLB The Show comes out tonight. A month ago we thought that it was a doomsday situation. We weren't going to get baseball. We have it. It's very close. I mean, we're a week away now. I guess when you're
Today
hearing
would have
this,
been the day.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm very excited. It's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a very fun year just across the sport in general. So I'm very excited that baseball we're within striking distance.
Yeah, even for fans of the Orioles, I'm not here to shit on the Orioles. But
no, come on, you can do it. Everyone else does. It's fine.
No, but it's like yeah, you're not making the playoffs this year. There's no delusions of you making the playoffs this year, but you're still pumped up for the season. And it seems like the Orioles have, two top 6 prospects in baseball, depending on the rankings that you go by. That's got to be what all of you Orioles fans are eyeing this year is how the young kids progress and do those top prospects materialize.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I know. I'm again like this time last year when I was on the show. I'm pretty sure if you rewind it, I'm saying the exact same stuff, but it was like we're gonna pay attention to the kids in the minors, and now it's like, hey, they're graduating up here, so we're going to see Adley Rutschman again, number 1 or 2 prospect, if you want to call him the number 2 prospect. That's fine. I think MLB pipelined it or one of those lists. Number 2 prospect Grayson Rodriguez, like you said, was high as 6. I mean, he's arguably the best pitcher in the minors.
Pipeline has him at 6.
Yeah, and again, I mean, he's pretty highly rated. I know Keith Law was kind of down on him. But they got Colton Cowser, they got DL Hall. They have guys who we may not see Colton this year, but DL Hall we're going to see. So again, last year we were talking about we're excited, but that was more for the minor league season. Again, as dumb and as loserish as it sounds to say this on a Yankees podcast, like we were excited about the kids in the minors. And because again, that was the future. Those kids are graduating. They're taking the step up. They're in the major league camp, in spring training and stuff like that. Those are guys that we're going to see this year. Adley would have been, he would have been the opening day catcher if not for the triceps injury that was 2 weeks ago from this Wednesday. So he was on a 2 to 3 week timetable. I see no reason to rush him at all. Again, we've seen Matt Wieters get Tommy John in 2014 when he was having his best start of his career. There's no reason to rush a guy like Adley. Again, if he wants, if they're gonna you play with him with kitty gloves, that's fine. He'll be up. A lot of these top guys, and I tweeted it the other night. I'm looking at their prospect list now. I think, let me see, 1, 2, 3. This is a great podcast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 8 of their top 10. 8 of their top 10 prospects. MLB has their ETA is 2022 or 2023. So again, that's like
my next question. Yeah.
They've got the horses, and it's gonna be like just a rush of talent coming in. And again, names like Adley, Grayson, Gunnar Henderson is a young guy, but he could be up soon. DL Hall, Kobe Mayo is shooting up. These lists. Kyle Stowers, guys like that. Kyle Bradish, who's a guy who a lot of Orioles fans didn't really know who he was 3 weeks ago, and people yesterday were flipping out because they reassigned him to AAA camp because he pitched so well, during spring training. So it's an exciting time, and like you said, they're not going to make the playoffs. They're not going to sniff 500, but we're going to see a lot of these young guys come up and make their MLB debuts, and again, they're laying the groundwork for. Cross your fingers, 2024 playoffs, 2025, again, playoff run, 2026. It seems like it's so far away, but they're setting the groundwork for that now.
It's not far away. I feel like it was just 2017.
It's crazy
boom,
too because
it's 22.
This is the 10-year anniversary. It's going to be of the 2012 season where the Orioles, came out of nowhere and made that wild card run before losing to the Yankees. And I'm just like, man, that was 10 years ago. And then I'm like, holy shit, the Delman Young, double was 8 years ago. Like that's insane. This is nuts. So yeah,
COVID has warped all of our perceptions of time. It just feel like the last 2 years have been sucked from us.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's a perfect way to sum it up.
But it's like, I still, not to bring up Cashman's comments. I don't know if you saw Cashman still blaming the Astros for the Yankees losing in 17. But like that 17 season, taking all the extra stuff out of it, like I loved that year for a lot of the same reasons that you're talking about. Just the Yankees ended up overachieving, but we were eyeing Judge and Sanchez and Severino and their come up. And in and of itself, that was just exciting to watch and sort of get behind some young talent and watch them progress. So yeah, it's not silly for you to say. And it can happen quickly. Look what the Blue Jays did. Mm-hmm. It's like they sucked, and then they have Vlad and Bichette and all these guys come up, and then overnight their lineup is freaking sick, and you add a few veterans, and you add a couple of arms, and some projections have them winning the AL East now. So it can happen quickly if the talent pans out.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, again, I like to think back to, I think it was what year was it that the Cubs made? I guess it was 2015 when the Cubs were like, oh, the Cubs are going to be good. You know, they're going to be good this year.
When they lost to the Mets.
And yeah, and then it's like, oh, they got really good, got hot, lost to the Mets. And it was kind of just like, it was a year. I feel like they were a year. People were like, next year they're going to be really good. And obviously they went to the World Series. I believe that next year, 2016. Is that when they lost to the
that's when they beat the former Cleveland.
Yeah, the Guardians, sorry.
Team.
And so, yeah, it's like they were kind of they had expectations and they kind of blew them out of the water the next 2 years. So yeah, I mean, and I'm going on record now. I think the Blue Jays win the division. I think they're.
Oh yeah.
I think they're going to be unreal. Like they're going to be very, very good.
I mean, I could see it shaking out any of the four teams finishing in any order. People are shitting all over the Rays. I'm like, this team won 100 games last year.
We've done this for years. We've got to stop.
Every year they're like, no, Tampa's got nothing. And 97 wins later, you're like, oh, I guess Tampa figured it out. Yeah, they always freaking figure it out.
I used to always like crap on Pacoda when it was like, Pacoda projects them, 95 wins. And I'm like, these bums, they don't know anything. Like, who's this Kevin Kiermaier dude? And then, yeah, it's like, oh, yeah, Joe Madden has them sleepwalking into – they got 95 wins with 2 weeks left in the season. You're like, oh, this team's a wagon. Okay.
They have the most insane pitching depth. Every single guy that they call up has a 99-mile-an-hour fastball with a devastating slider, and no one on the Yankees can touch it. And there's like 9 of them in the bullpen.
Yeah,
and so it's just every year it's with them. I'm never counting them out.
It's like I've always said, like, I don't understand why someone doesn't go to the Rays pitching staff, pitching scout, and just hand them a blank check and say, come on, like, bring it out. Yeah. It's like, it's a different sport, but the Steelers with wide receivers and the Rays with pitchers, they could take anyone. And it's like, oh, by the way, you're going to be an all-star in 2 years. You're going to be a Cy Young, candidate in 3 years. And then we're going to trade you. And then we're going to get all these prospects, and they're going to be better than you are. And it's like, I don't understand it. Again, God forbid if they figure out that they're actually like allowed to spend a decent amount of money, they're gonna be the Dodgers of the East.
That's why the news that they were
the
Freeman contracts. I'm like, oh my god!
It's like, don't let them know that you can develop pitchers and spend money on free agents. Don't tell them that. They're gonna freak out. They're gonna lose.
I mean, I never thought it was gonna happen because it would just be too ridiculous. Mm-hmm. But like, all of a sudden you add Freddie Freeman, MVP bat in that lineup. Yeah. You're like, well, what the hell are we doing at this point?
He's that like veteran leader in the clubhouse who, Wander's going to love and they're going to have all those guys. So, yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if any of the, like you said, any of the 4 teams except for the Orioles finish in any which way, any order. I just think the Blue Jays are just, I think they're very good. And I mean, they lost Ray, but they added Gaussman and a couple other arms.
Another thing that I know Yankees fans are concerned about is the vaccination status and guys. We don't know still. Like it got reversed in New York City, so everyone's gonna be able to play in New York City. But like there's rumors that potentially Judge and some other key players are not vaccinated, and that's 9 games in Toronto. Mm-hmm. And I know the Red Sox have a number of players. Chris Sale, I believe, is
very openly
publicly not vaccinated. So it's like the Blue Jays, like as sick as it is to say, could have like a built-in advantage there if they're just like anytime they play teams at home, they're going to have maybe potentially a couple players missing because of a vaccination status. So like, I don't know, that could play a factor if we're talking about a game or two in the division.
I mean, that's the ultimate home field advantage. And again, like people, you could say whatever you want. Like the Blue Jays play by the exact same rules as everyone else. So like all their guys, again, they've bought into it, and I don't really like Michael Irvin, again, going back to another sport, but he said it before the NFL season, and not to drive a vaccine mandate or whatever, but Michael Irvin said, listen, if you're not vaccinated, you're not doing everything you can to win a championship. And I think that's 100% true. Like, I don't understand how Aaron Judge can stand up in a locker room or a clubhouse and say, guys, I'll do anything for this team. You know, I will bleed. I will do whatever it takes to win a championship, except that. And like, I know the Orioles, I think they said I think they only have like 2 or 3 guys. And if it's 2 of the guys I'm thinking of, one guy's a pretty good player. The other guy is a bum pitcher who may not even be on the team come, August. But, they've lucked out with that. And again, it's going to be very interesting to see, again, if there's a game in Toronto where, I mean, if you're the Jays and you're going, we don't have to face Judge. We don't have to face just take him out of the lineup. That's fine. Sure.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know the other ones. But, man, again, talk about a home field advantage. They got it. They're gonna that could be the deciding factor. And could you imagine the radio shows, the talk shows, the back pages if the Yankees lose a wild card spot by a game, half game, or something like that?
Oh, it's like you go. I don't have the Yankee schedule by heart, but it's like you're playing Toronto in late August or September, and you're a game out, and then Judge has just got to ride the pine for 3 days.
Yeah,
it's
he's
like,
gonna be in Trenton working out.
He couldn't even travel. He couldn't even travel there. And there's rumors. I've already talked about some on this show. Potentially Cole not vaccinated. Potentially Higashioka.
I didn't know that one.
Potentially Higashioka not vaccinated. Rizzo, even though he said it's not going to be a problem, he didn't actually say I am vaccinated.
Yeah, he gave the Aaron Rodgers like wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah,
which he surprised me. That was a surprising one because of the cancer and stuff like that.
Yeah, and listen, I'm not here to shame anyone for their personal choices. Like, frankly, you do you. But like when it is, you're affecting your teammates and a high-profile organization like a baseball team that's worth billions of dollars and the industry is worth billions of dollars. It's like, do what you got to do to get on the field and follow the rules. I mean, that's been my take on it the whole time. And yeah, Aaron Judge is going to face massive criticism if he's not on the field in a close playoff race because he's not vaccinated.
I mean, God forbid you guys are in the 1-game wild card versus Toronto.
In Toronto,
could you? Yeah. I mean, that would be unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
That would be one of the biggest baseball stories.
Yeah.
In a long, long time. And again, I mean, I could only imagine where here's Aaron Judge, and there's some drone flying over his house, and or it's in his apartment in the city or something like that. Like,
you can't come back from that though. Like, even if your team wins, you can't come back from that.
That's like a full on mutual agree. It's like I was gonna say Kyrie, but that's obviously been fixed. But like it's got to a point where like, hey, this professional relationship cannot go on because and it's like you got to trade him to a National League team, so he's not coming back to that ballpark a bunch. But
I mean. I've said this also, not to repeat myself a number of times. I haven't said it to you. I'm wondering if that's why the whole contract extension with the Yankees and Aaron Judge is being held up, is because he is not vaccinated, and they're like, we're not giving you a contract extension if you're not going to be playing 9 games. We know you're not playing 9 games against a potential team that we're fighting in the division for.
Yeah, I mean, I know that that was the talk with the Story stuff. What was that? Probably last week, I guess they said that was kind of a hitch in the contract. He eventually agreed to it. Yeah, I mean, again, you got either that or they're like, hey, we're going to prorate your contract. We're going to take those 9 games out. Here's how much you're missing. Here's the number.
But the impact of not having him on the field for those 9 games is way more than the
huge.
$1.5 or whatever it's going to be.
And like you said, mid-September, late September game, you need to take 2 out of 3, and Judge is sitting at home. Like good luck coming back from that because like you said, it's going to be impossible. And again, not just Judge. I mean, there's a handful of guys like you said. Which, I mean, that could really, really, just derail and again, I feel like that's how you shatter a clubhouse. You just completely divide it. And I mean, that could be an ugly, ugly scene.
So the last few years, the team that's won the division was the team that just mopped the floor with the Orioles. I think I pulled the numbers here just to rub it in a little bit to you. So the Rays went 18-1 against the Orioles last year, won the division. Yankees 17-2 and 19 won the division. The Red Sox 16-3 won the division. Seems like the 4 teams that at the top are going to beat up on each other, go about 500. Then whoever can win 16 or 17 against the Orioles will take the division. Mm-hmm. Question is, can the Orioles play more competitive baseball against the top teams in the division so that does not happen?
Yeah, I mean, again, I would hope so. It's tough because I'm looking at their pitching depth chart right now. It's John Means, obviously the ace. I think John Means is a very good pitcher too. I don't think he would be a number one on many other teams, but I think he's a very good pitcher.
Sure.
Obviously, I mean, we saw it. He's had some good performances against the Yankees. He had the no-hitter. Should have been a perfect game last year. The drop-off after that, Jordan Lyles, he's fine. And then the names Bruce Zimmerman, Zach Lowther, Tyler Wells, who was their closer last year. They're now stretching him out to be a starter. Dean Kramer and Keegan Aiken. 4 out of those 5 guys are like crossing your fingers, like third inning. Just please get to the third. And it's like against those lineups, I mean, Dean Kramer has been shelled by the Yankees. He's been abused by a lot of the other teams. Keegan Aiken took a no-hitter into the top of the 7th of a doubleheader, the first game of a doubleheader last year versus Toronto, and they lost 11-2. The Orioles lost.
I remember that. Yeah, and it
was unbelievable.
It was a 7-inning game, right?
Yep, 7-inning game. He was 3 outs away from a no-hitter. They lost 11-2.
Put up an 11 spot. I was like, I remember talking about that. I was like, that Blue Jays offense is just cruel.
I had the blog written like, holy shit, Keegan Aiken just did what? And then it was like, I've never deleted a blog faster.
But you should have posted it anyway.
it's going to come down to those guys because, like you said, I mean, the Orioles offense, it's fine. They're going to get shut out by Cole. They're going to get, crapped on by Gausman. Sale is going to have a 14 strikeout game against them. It all just depends on the pitchers. And, like, do I feel confident in Bruce Zimmerman holding down, the Blue Jays? No. Do I feel confident in Dean Kramer going up against the Yankees? No, not really. So, yeah.
They played more competitive against the Yankees last year.
Yeah, what did they... I forget how many games they won.
I can pull up this. But even, like, game to game, it was just like it wasn't a cakewalk, which is what you'd expect it to be.
Yeah, and the Yankees always seem to have a series in Baltimore.
11-8. The Yankees went 11-8.
11-8. Yeah.
Which, I mean, if the Orioles are going to be winning 8 games against you, that's a huge difference when the team that won the division only
18.
lost 1.
Yeah. And again, I mean that's what it came down to. I think for the wild card spot too. I think the Red Sox, obviously the Red Sox.
They also played them tough. Yeah, played them tough.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Can they play? Can they be more competitive? I hope so because, again, these guys are some crap or get off the pot. Like, you got to start. Bruce Zimmerman's, this is going to be his 3rd year. Zach Lowther's in his 2nd year. Dean Kramer came over in the Manny Machado trade, and he led all of the minors in strikeouts when he was traded here. So it's like, all right, dude, that was 2018. Like, 2022 now. We kind of got to get this going. So it's all going to depend on the pitching staff, and It doesn't look pretty right now. That's why I wanted them to get a Chris Archer, get a Drew Smiley, just a body who has been in the those guys have both been in the AL East. They kind of know what they're doing. They're not going to break the bank or anything. They're not your biggest signings, but I think they could bring something to a pitching staff. And I don't know, but the pitching staff, that's what it's going to come down to. Can they just be good enough to, again, not you turn on the game in the 4th and it's 11-3 Yankees and you're going, all right, get them tomorrow, probably not, but whatever.
Well, that's the thing about like it's a weird spot to be in as an organization because you're obviously building for the future. You're not fooling anyone, but you still want to put as competitive a product on the field as you can. And if you sign a veteran starting pitcher, that can just have a positive impact on the rest of the staff. So if it's $10 million to pitch 170 innings of 4.4 ERA or whatever, like, yeah, that's not exactly the best thing in the world, but also could have just positive impacts in other ways.
Absolutely. I mean, the Andrew Kashner, they made that signing a couple years ago, and he was exactly that. They signed him when they thought they were competing. That 2018 year turned out to be awful.
Yes, that was when Machado was still in.
Yeah, and that was they went for it one last time with Britton and Jones and Machado and Scope and Davis and a bunch of those guys, and they got off. I mean, it was just a horror. They were in first place at the end of May and just absolutely dropped off the face of the earth. So, yeah, they unloaded all those guys, but they had, an Andrew Kashner who was that guy who was like, hey, he's not going to have an ERA under 3, but he's going to pitch 150 innings, hopefully. And, they ended up moving him to the Sox for some prospects or whatever. But, yeah, I mean, I would have really liked to see a veteran guy or two just to come in and, again, kind of like it's a young pitching staff. Again, you take away Means and Lyles. These guys are all in their mid-20s. I mean, they're young guys, and there's not a lot of starts there. So I would have just liked to see someone like that come in again, just to kind of be like the rotation dad almost, like come to me with any questions. And I know Kashner was like that with a lot of the guys. I'm not like co-signing for Cashner to be like, he's not Roger Clemens or anything, but I know he was really liked around the team. I just thought even like a Pineda, someone like that, sign him for $8 million.
I don't know if Pineda's going to be that.
I was like,
Pineda's not going to be the rotation dad.
Well, no, not the dad, but I was just like, again, he's a body. Get him in here.
Yeah.
Like, we need someone.
And because he's a former Yankee, he's good for a couple 6-inning no-run starts against the Yankees.
Pretty much, yeah. And again, I mean, sign me up for that any day. But it's all going to come down to the pitching with this team, and I hope it's enough to again be able to put up a fight because, like you said, they were competitive against the Yankees. It didn't seem like they were very competitive against the other squads as much.
Yeah, Means is not going to be a trade candidate, right? Like they're hanging on to him.
I would hope so. I think he's a free agent after 2024. Obviously, they're going to arbitration
would kind of
with
be
him.
when you get max value for him on the trade market.
Yeah, but again, it's like he's almost that guy that you're like, he's the guy that you want in that rotation with Grayson Rodriguez and DL Hall, and
he
maybe
could be
Zach
the veteran
Lowther.
guy for when the younger kids come up.
Exactly, yeah. Like he's already taken. He's the rotation dad. Kind of just by default. And he just turns out to be really good. If it wouldn't surprise me if they got blown away with an offer, I think they would move him. But I don't like. And again, like there was a conversation with Mullins, like, oh, the Orioles are looking to trade Cedric Mullins. And it was like, no, they're not looking to trade him. But if someone was
going to give you something stupid for him,
you got to listen to everything. I mean, you should listen to anyone, especially a team like the Orioles. So if someone came to them and were like, hey, we'll give you our number 2 prospect, our number 6 prospect, and 19, I think you probably think about it.
I mean, the question
I was just going to say he's got some years left, controllable years. So
exactly
that's what teams want.
But the Orioles have to think, okay, Mullins and Means, are those guys going to still be in their prime when we are starting to compete? Because if they are, then hanging on to them makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's like, maybe not, maybe they're on the downswing, it's like, then you got to get something for them now.
Strike while the iron's hot. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the situation they're in now with Trey. Like, I'm, buddies with him. I want him to be on the team forever.
Yeah.
But, there's a lot of his contract's up at the end of the year. There's a lot of NL teams who are still looking for DHs.
Sure.
So, they're like, he turned 30 2 weeks ago. Like, he's not going to, they haven't even talked to him about an extension, let alone offer him one. It's pretty clear that, again, he's not going to be here in 2 years, 3 years, next year. So people want to trade him. That's a whole different subject. But, you got to look at Means because, again, Means is only, I mean, he's still relatively young, too, just like his playing career. Like, this is maybe his 4th year, I think. So he's 28. I mean, it wouldn't be unheard of for in 2 years, pitcher at 30 still being able to produce and pitch like he's shown, again, because he doesn't have a lot of wear and tear in that arm. So Mullins is kind of the same thing. Mullins, I mean, he's had his, he's played plenty of games, but last year was his first really full year.
It was his breakout year.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the 30-30 year was unbelievable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's relatively young even for how old he is, which is not very old. So yeah, I mean, I would love, again, he's 27. I would love for them to offer him an extension, buy out his arbitration years, and again, like, kind of make him almost like the Kevin Kiermaier. Like, he's going to be in center field. You know what you're going to get from him. And again, he's kind of just that leader. So it'll be interesting to, again, see if I posted on my Instagram today, like, John Means opening day starter. They announced it today. And my buddy texted me and said, can't wait for him to be in a Phillies uniform, right after the trade deadline. And I was like, well, again, if they want to send over some prospects, like, yeah, I could see it. I don't think they're going to go out and be like, hey, we're openly shopping, John Means. So
right. So Rushman's dealt with an injury. We were talking beforehand a couple weeks ago, and you said it was about a 2 or 3 week injury. Gonna see him at the end of the month, or is it going to be mid-season?
I think it's definitely sooner rather than later. Everything I've heard and like I've talked to people about, they said it's just like everything is very, very, very precautionary. Like, he just woke up with like a little tricep soreness after I think after one of their like split squad scrimmages or whatever. And it was like, there's no pain, there's no shooting pain, there's been no, hey, he's talking to Dr. James Andrews, or he's, we haven't heard any PRP, forearm soreness, elbow soreness. There's been nothing like that. They simply said just a tricep strain, which, again, either the Orioles are very good at downplaying things, or it's like, hey guys, this really is not a big deal. Again, they're just taking extreme precaution with them. I think we could see him middle of April, maybe. I know. So I think the Orioles they open in Tampa. They come home, I believe, they open in Tampa, come home for the Brewers. I think they play the Yankees.
They play the Yankees mid-April, like April 16th or something.
Yeah. So they go on the West Coast trip, and then they play the Yankees, I believe. On the like last leg of that, and then they play them I think a week later.
Call him up for the Yankees game. Get his feet wet.
I was like, maybe I think that they're going to keep him out of the West Coast trip. Again, young kid.
Sure.
Just keep him home, because it's Oakland, it's LA. Just the first road series, basically, second of the season. I think we'll definitely see him by that Yankees game. I know JJ was talking about coming down for that. We figured out today that it was Easter, so he was like, I either have to not drink and then take an 8:30 train back to to Jersey the next morning. So I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, I think we definitely. If I would be shocked if he's healthy, and we don't see him by the March or April 25th, something like that.
That's an exciting thing though. When a top prospect is called up, it kind of seems like, oh, how exciting can that be? I was at Aaron Judge's first game. Mm-hmm. Okay, that shit was exciting.
Oh, so, who did he hit? Who was it else? Tyler Wade.
Tyler Wade and him went back to back.
Yeah, and
it was like 105 degrees. In the Bronx. It was miserable.
Mm-hmm.
Like I barely watched the game unless Aaron Judge was hitting. I was like, I just want to see this guy's at bats, and then I want to be dousing myself in Bud Light.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when the Orioles called up Matt Wieters, and they called a press conference the night before to announce that they were calling up Matt Wieters, and that was like, again, the Orioles were dog shit, and I just remember like texting everyone, being like, oh my God, this is like, again, you don't call a press conference to be like, hey, we're calling up a prospect tomorrow. It's just like, that doesn't happen. And again, especially on a bad team. So yeah, I mean, people are excited, and when that happens, when they call him up, people were even saying like, if the Orioles were smart, they wouldn't bring him up on opening day. They would bring him up the next day, or not Orioles opening day.
Tickets.
Exactly, because you're gonna get a sellout on opening day. Boom, now you got to sell out the next day, and it's like, hey, you want to have some fun? Call up Grayson Rodriguez the next day, and it's like, how can you just stack prospects back to back to back?
That's a dick move to call the kid up on
the second
opening day. Like, at least make it a couple weeks into the season, and then you can kind of fudge it like, oh, it was all part of the plan.
Exactly. And like, that's what, like, when this happened, everyone was like, oh, now they can hold him down to manipulate service time or whatever, which I still don't know how it's affected with the new CBA. I have no clue.
Good luck trying to figure it out. You need to be a rocket scientist.
I gotta I'll read
rules.
Something Boris said about it, which I'm sure he used some like hilarious pun to like to compare it to something. But yeah,
my understanding is that it's slightly more detrimental to manipulate service time, but teams are still going to do it because the draft is only so valuable, and it's not like we're talking about a top NFL or a top NBA pick. Like, you're not getting LeBron James in the MLB draft.
Yeah.
So they're still going to manipulate service time.
Pretty much. And again, until someone's like heavily penalized, that's just how it's going to be. Yeah. But no, I mean, people are excited. His debut will be a massive debut. And if the Orioles were smart, they wouldn't do it against the Yankees because of how many of those tickets are already sold to Yankees fans. Like, that would just, I mean, that would not be a very good idea if you ask me.
I saw on Twitter they're doing, for the 30th anniversary of Camden Yards, they're doing like 1992 ticket prices, and the Yankees are one of those games.
Yeah, which is very surprising because it used to be the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Nationals, and the Phillies, basically, the four closest teams. I guess prime prices or whatever. So, a bleacher seat, I usually sit in center field for $19 when they're playing the Rays. But when the Yankees are in town, those are like $55 tickets. Which, again, I get it. You got to do that. But, yeah, I was very surprised at that. They're doing I think you get in the building for $4. I think center field was like $10. They're doing $1.75 hot dogs. So, again, it's like you got to be dumb not to take advantage of that. And I'm sure Yankees fans are going to flood down there for it.
Oh, yeah. They definitely will, especially because you can't get half a beer for $4.
I was gonna say you're gonna spend like more on hot dogs than you will for your ticket.
Yeah. So you already said your prediction. I've been asking all the people we're doing previews with for the predictions, but you've already said that the Blue Jays are winning the division.
Yeah, I think they're very good. Again, with the arms they've added, And then it's like, oh, by the way, we're just going to trade for Matt Chapman at 8 a.m., like a random morning. I'm like getting ready to take my daughter to daycare. And it's like, oh, yeah, by the way, Chapman's a Blue Jay now.
And then like an hour later, there's reports like, oh, they might also go after Jose Ramirez. I'm
yeah.
like, no.
Yeah.
No.
But that was still like, oh, and guess what? They're still checking in on Freddie Freeman, too. It's like, what the hell? What are we doing? Like, what are the Blue Jays? Like, they're going to win every home game because, again, no one can play up there.
That is an X factor I kind of just realized as I was talking through it. That could mean the difference in the division.
100%. But yeah, I think it's Blue Jays. Again, it wouldn't surprise me if I thought the Red Sox were going to be awful last year too, and obviously they surprised a lot of people. It wouldn't surprise me if any of those teams finish in any of the orders. But I think the Blue Jays lineup is the lineup I'm least looking forward to playing when I play the show tonight at like 12:15 when it automatically downloads. But it's just they just got hitters everywhere. And again, it's like, oh, by the way, Vlad lost another 30 pounds, and he's still hitting tanks. They're just
other than the Dodgers. I mean, they're probably second best lineup in baseball behind the Dodgers.
Yeah, but at least like with me, I'm like, we don't got to worry about the Dodgers. Like I'll watch them.
just for ranking the lineups.
And the Dodgers have like a top 5-10 lineup of all time. It seems
they have all stars at every position. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Somehow the Dodgers spend the most money, also have the most prospects.
Yeah.
And somehow still field like an all-star team.
It's like they probably haven't drafted above, I don't know, 25th or whatever in 15 years. And they still end up with like, oh, somehow they just get, Dustin May, and they get all these guys who are just filthy people. So
it's another reason why I feel like player development is just as important as the actual place you're picking in the draft, which is why teams aren't going to give a shit if their draft picks are lost. It's still about player development when you're talking about baseball for the most part. And clearly the Dodgers have that figured out.
Yeah.
And the Rays have that figured out.
The two teams, I mean, again, one spends a ton of money, one doesn't really, but they will develop you and I into like at least a AAA All-Star, at minimum a AAA All-Star.
All right, Eric. Well, very fun to talk to you. And yeah, have fun watching baseball this season. We'll see if the Orioles can pull their weight against the rest of the division.
If the Orioles win more games than they lose against the Yankees, I will consider that a winning season and will petition to get a banner hung in Camden Yards, like a wild card banner, or like a division title.
It's like when the Colts hung like
AFC participant banner. Or whatever. Finals participant. Yeah. I'll get working on that. But yeah, let's hope they can be more competitive. Again, I mean, if the entire division could just be competitive, I think that would be awesome. But again, we're a couple years away, but we're getting there. Hopefully when we're doing this podcast in 2 years, I have a little bit of a different tone.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, man. Okay. Surprise. We're back because Eric just dropped a bomb on me, which I don't know how the hell I missed this. The Orioles have adjusted Camden Yards and is not going to be a bandbox potentially anymore. They moved the left field wall back 27 feet, and they put a 13-foot mini green monster out there. This is big news, dude.
It's, again, I told you, that's been arguably the biggest news of the offseason for the Orioles. People are pissed. People are not happy. And
why are they pissed?
Because they're like, and again, I love Camden Yards. I love it. I wanted to get married there. I've been to weddings there. I've been to hundreds of games there. People are like, You can't do this to the wall. You can't move it back. This is
do
the
it
best
to a
ball park in the
wall?
world. Dude, it's a fucking wall. It's a wall. Who cares? And again, so Mike Elias and Sig Mejdel, who run Elias is GM, Sig Mejdel is his BFF, best buddy, analytics guy. They're like, we ran all the numbers, we did all this stuff. If we move it back this far, it cuts home runs down by this. It cuts runs down by this. They're like, hopefully, again, nobody wants to. It's impossible to get. This probably goes back to what we were talking about. Getting free agent pitchers to come to Baltimore is awful. It's tough because, again, who wants to come and pitch in July in Camden Yards against the Yankees and the Blue Jays and the Red Sox when balls are flying out to left field?
Has it ever been adjusted from the time it was built?
There was at one time they actually moved home plate back. They moved the wall, the backstop back and home plate back. And then they, like, a year later, they just moved it back. And we're like, forget we ever did that.
Just kidding.
Yeah, screw it. Forget it. Like, they just hit the undo button. But no, I mean, it's the biggest renovation they've done since Camden Yards opened, 30 years ago.
I'm looking at a diagram. So it's going to jut out from the left field pole.
Yep.
And the wall's going to be higher. But then does it jump back in where the
It's
bullpen
a right
starts?
angle. That bullpen is staying right there, and it's a right angle, and that's what people are worried about.
That's a
And
little
people-
weird.
They're like, someone's going to get killed. DJ Stewart's going to get his head taken off. Austin Hayes is going to get a concussion.
Everyone calm down. Houston had a hill in center field for 2 decades, and no one broke their ankles.
That, and then I will also say, go look at Pittsburgh Stadium. Go look at PNC Park. They have the identical setup there. And I'm like, literally, my response to everyone when people are like, this is so dangerous, someone's going to get hurt. And I go, when was the last time you heard of someone running into the wall in Pittsburgh in that left field? PNC Park is very similar. It's not as much of a 90-degree angle, but they still have like that wall, the wall right next to the bullpen.
I see it.
And it's like even Houston is kind of flipped.
And
where what do they call it? The what box do they call that? Like the left field that comes in.
Crawford box?
Something like that. And it's like, again, that's kind of I get why, because again, it's more in center field, so you got a guy coming full head of steam that way. But yeah, people are not happy because they say it's the best ballpark in the country. You don't repaint the Mona Lisa because you don't like the way her hair looks. And I'm like, guys, listen, it's a fucking wall. If it helps us get a pitcher in a couple years and they end up winning the World Series, that's fine. Like that's okay. That's what we want. And like, it's not like Mike Elias and the guys just came out of nowhere being like, do you want to move the wall back? Yeah, sure, let's do it. And like flip the coin being like, 27 feet. Like that's a significant
because so many home runs land in those first 5 or 6 rows in left field.
100%. And there's a lot where, again, you guys have seen where it's like, oh, that ball, that's a pop-up. And it's like, oh, no, it's just like right field kind of at Yankee Stadium where you're like, that's not, can it? Is it going? Yeah, it is.
Guys get jammed and it somehow finds the second row. You're like, okay, I guess that's a home run.
And it also, one of their other reasons was, again, they have Ryan Mountcastle, who's a big, powerful right-handed hitter. Besides for that, Trey Mancini, obviously, he has a ton of power. He may only be here another year. I think 9 out of their top 10 hitting prospects are all left-handed or switch hitters. So it's like that. They're not losing much because, again, it's like Ryan Mountcastle has enough power to muscle a ball 27 more feet. That's like, I think when it comes down to it, it's really not that, like, it's a launch degree of like 1% or something like that, where it's like, oh, now it's a home run or whatever.
Yeah.
But a lot of their guys are lefties or switch hitters. Adley's a switch hitter. Kyle Stowers is a left-handed guy. Some of the guys that they're looking at drafting are left-handed. I'm sure that's going to play into it. Heston Kjerstad, these guys are all left-handed. So that's going to play into it. And they're like, if it keeps a Judge or a home run or 2 or 3 in, this season, that's a win. Like this is why they're doing it. So that's arguably been the biggest news of the offseason. And again, the amount of times I've gotten into fights with like grown adults. I had someone tell me I'm not rooting for the Orioles because they moved the wall back. And it's like, all right, dude. So if I see you at the parade, I'm punching you square in the face. Because again, it's a wall. Like you don't get upset about this. They're doing it to try and help.
Sports fans are inherently irrational. And that's just the most irrational you can possibly be. It's just like, I'm not rooting for the team because they're moving the wall back.
I literally, I'm like, it's concrete. Like, you're mad at concrete right now. Like, well, how am I supposed to get a ball?
How am I supposed to get a ball?
Hang out with Zach Hampel before the game. Like, what do you want me to tell you, dude? Like, again, if they win a game.
I will grant you being mad is if you had season tickets in the front row in left field and now you're further back, then I'd be like, okay, you can be a little mad.
Yeah, and it's like, again, I mean, I know, and I think they compensated those people in the, either with, you have season tickets here, wherever, but I know they did something with that. But again, it's like, guys, if it helps, again, look at all the right-handed power bats in this division. Like, if it helps keep some of them in and it helps bring some pitchers, that's good for Baltimore. That's what we want. Like, this is why they're doing it. So again, they backed it up with every stat that they have, and they're like, they literally have a stat where it's like, here's how many John Means home runs would not have been home runs. Here's how many, Tyler Wells pitches would not have been home runs last year and stuff like that. So they've backed it up with some cool data. And again, I'm like, why do you not? People like want it to fail. I'm like, why do you want it? Why do you want it to fail? Like you're rooting against your favorite team. Like, what is going on? Again, sports fans are so irrational. They're mad over a wall, and they're like, I hope the Orioles never win a game this year. All right, dude, sick.
When the new Yankee Stadium opened and pop-ups were leaving at an alarming rate, I was like, push the wall back. This is not cool. Like, at least the old Yankee Stadium, it felt like you still had to hit the ball, like, far Like you had to hit it hard to get a home run, and like you'd have pop-up home runs right down the right field line. But now at the new Yankee Stadium, you got pop-up home runs to right center field. I'm just like, this is stupid, guys.
Mullins hit a couple like that. I remember last year, and I'm like, oh, that's almost at the judge's box. Like that's out there.
I can't tell you how many times, and CC Sabathia, love him, but he wore his heart on his sleeve. He would just throw his head back like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, and again, as a pitcher, like, why would you want to pitch in a ballpark like that? Again, I obviously can't be pitching for the Yankees is different, but it's like if it can help get free agent pitchers, being like, hey man, if we didn't move the wall back, here's how many home runs you would have given up in Camden Yards last year. But like, hey, we moved it back. You're only giving up 8 home runs at home or something like that. It's pretty good. And again, it's the weather, the teams you play, and again, the level of competition on the pitching mound. If it helps improve, I think it's a win. So
I like this. I love. Ballparks, just because they're all kind of unique. It's just so much cooler than all other sports where everything is the exact same size. Yeah. So this is cool shit. I'm glad we got on to talk about this.
Yeah. It's going to be neat. Again, it'll be weird seeing it in with my own 2 eyes, but I'm all for it. I hope it brings them, again, nothing but success, because that's why they're doing it. So,
all right. Thanks again.
Yep.